Hey everybody, Phil/Polygon here. Welcome to part 3 of my Purist's Guide to Character Building. I die 3 times in this one, just to get that out of the way and learn 3 valuable lessons. Picking up exactly where we left off, we just took out the gargoyles. We have upgraded our partisan, the primary weapon of choice for this playthrough, to the divine path. And after I stop off at Andre, because I always use my gargoyle money to pick up the armorsmith box, the weaponsmith box, and the repair box. I don't think you really need them up until this point because everything is still in fairly close proximity. It's not a huge pain to have to run back to Andre or to Rickert of Vinheim to repair your stuff or upgrade your stuff, but now we're going to farther and farther away locations. I just like having that extra bonfire functionality. We definitely don't want to have to run back here to upgrade, especially as we come across green shards on our divine path partisan. So here we go. Cool. So in this one we're heading for Blighttown. One thing I always do before heading for Blighttown is run back to the Undead Asylum. I make my homecoming to the Undead Asylum because I hate moving slowly through that muck down in Blighttown. It just irritates the hell out of me. So I always like to run back to the asylum and pick up that rusted iron ring. It makes it really easy because you have full movement speed down in the swamp itself. Makes it a lot easier to farm those slugs and a lot less annoying to farm those slugs. In general, farming ain't so great. So this is just one little thing we can do to sort of make it a little bit easier to take. I was worried as hell. That was close. I was worried as hell about making this jump on camera too, because I miss it all the time. I have no idea what it is. Sometimes I just jump too late and like run off the ledge. Sometimes I try and jump it and get fancy. I think I jump it on the next one and we'll just miss and then have to run through the graveyard and come all the way back up. And that is so irritating when you're trying to be efficient, right? Anytime you make those goofy little mistakes, you're kind of like, oh my god, this is so infuriating. So I'm glad I made it. But in terms of going back to the asylum, it's not just for the rusted iron ring. The Black Knights we're going to take out over there have a 100% drop rate for red Titanite chunks. Red Titanite chunks don't mean a damn thing to this character. We're on the divine path. We're not doing chaos or fire. But we can feed them to Frampt for easy green Titanite shards. So I'm going to pick those up as well and pick up a fancy little shield to give my regards to Oscar. I left this cutscene in because I always think this moment coming up with the crow is so hilarious where they show you what happened. It's kind of like, see? He grabbed you and he's taking you back to the asylum as if we were unable to puzzle that out on our own. I'm not really sure when the developers intended you to come back to the Undead Asylum in the logical flow of the game. If there is a logical flow of the game in an open world game, who knows? Because it's a completely optional area. It lets you pick up a Titanite slab and some other goodies from Oscar and all that kind of thing. The crest shield, which is fantastically handy. But I will say, I think we're a little bit underpowered here. The Black Knights are pretty tough. We don't have a lot of HP, and those torch guys are fucking deadly. They have that charging attack that will just eat you up, even at later levels. If you're fairly weak to fire or whatever it is. Ooh, a little too slow on the riposte there. That other guy was able to clip me. But they can tear you up with that, and it has very little startup time. They just kind of randomly start charging. So you gotta be careful with them, at least I do. Because we are still pretty low on our vitality. I don't think it's our default 12, but we are not rocking a lot of health, and those guys will chew through us. So be careful if you come back here. I have no qualms about hiding behind my shield and just poking with my spear. So, I always have to be careful here too, because I often forget that boulder resets. I will just go charging up those stairs and get flattened by it. Just a little something to watch out for there. Making sure Oscar's not following us too. Did he come out of his hole? So now, this is something I always do. I'm making a run for the ring first. My primary objective of coming back to the asylum was to get the rusted iron ring to try and make Blighttown a little less painful. In areas where you are going to exclusively for a certain thing, I always make sure I go and grab it first. And then the other stuff is just kind of icing on the cake. I mean, we'll take out Oscar and grab his shield. We will take out those Black Knights for the chunks like I was talking about. But the primary purpose of coming back here was to get that ring. So this applies to other areas too. If you're going somewhere just for one thing, get that one thing at all costs. And then you can just kind of dick around in the area with other stuff and just, you know, supplement the journey. And I should have pointed out earlier too when I was talking about missing jumps, be sure and pick up that key from the rooftop before jumping in that crow's nest and coming back here. I've come back here a lot of times and forgotten to pick up that key, and then the whole thing is just a waste of time because you have to go back and you can't actually get the ring. It's the key that unlocks that door that we just passed through. So now, if I remember this correctly, I had a pretty difficult time taking out Oscar. I think he gives me quite a few pops as I just have the worst parry timing on Earth. And I have to burn through a lot of flasks to take them out. The Black Knights go down fairly easy. I'm able to parry them reliably and just kind of chain BS them and stuff like that for whatever reason. Oscar was giving me a lot of grief in his hollow form. I mean, look at this. I can't do anything. Finally. Good lord, kiddo. You are tough in your Elite Knight armor set. But soon your beautiful shield will be mine. I'm really interested in the Crest Shield and just kind of messing with this whole thing at all. Because being a Faith build, I kind of want to be a little bit of a Mage Buster too. So I will eventually be rocking the Crown of Dusk. I'm going to use the Crest Shield to offset a little bit of my magic vulnerability that you get from wearing the Crown of Dusk. It supplements your magic and your miracles and your pyromancies actually. But it leaves you, it gives you a weakness to magic. I think a 10 or a 20% or maybe 30% weakness. I think it's a 20% boost and a 30% weakness to magic. So I want to make sure I caught that up. He caught me through the wall there. Thanks, Black Knight. So I will just kind of talk through this because it's a whole lot of cheapery. I get one parry off them and then I just do a bunch of chain BSs because I do not want to mess around with getting taken out by these guys. They will probably two-shot me with their little sweeping attacks, their 1-2 combinations with those Black Knight swords. And actually, regarding these chain BSs when you're PvEing, one thing I do to get the timing right is I will move into position behind them, and then when they stand up, I'll take a little stutter step before hitting the attack button in order to initialize the backstab animation. It just helps me with the timing a little bit, because I find if I just stand there behind them waiting, I get a little antsy and will often hit the attack button too early, and it won't lock into the BS. So I always take that little half step just to sort of get the cadence correct. That's something I've found to be pretty effective. And like I said, at this point, I've got everything I want to get from the Undead Asylum. I picked up the shield, I picked up the Rusted Iron Ring. So if you don't feel like messing with this, if you don't want to kind of dick around with these Black Knights, you could absolutely just homeward bone back to the bonfire at Andre and be on your merry way. I am taking the opportunity, just because we are kind of focusing on efficiency, to try and take these guys out for those red Titanite chunks. Like I said, we're not going to do fire, we're not going to do chaos, but when we ring that second bell down in Blighttown, we can feed these things to Framped when he appears, Kingseeker Framped. I'll talk to him when he shows up. In order to get some green Titanite shards, which of course are what we use to upgrade the Divine Partisan. Or anything, I guess, along the divine path. So it'll save us a little bit of time if we have them, and we won't have to farm quite so much with those leeches down in Blighttown, which are the other good sources of green Titanite shards. So this is just trying to save me a little bit of time down the way. See that little half step? It's my timing trick. I guess we can pick up the doll while we are here as well. That, I have not put a lot of thought into what I want to pick up in the painted world. Maybe the Black Cleric Road, just for style. I think that's a cool looking jacket to be running around in. But I mean, while we're here, we might as well pick it up. Outside of that, I don't know if I'm going to... Oh, no, you know what? I am absolutely going to need that, because I want to pick up Vow of Silence from the painted world, being that Mage Buster. So that is going to be pretty essential for taking out those casters. So we just homeward bone outs, bid adieu to the Asylum. I didn't mess with taking on the Asylum Demon because I don't have a need for the Titanite slab with this character. It'd be nice to have, I guess, but I didn't want to go through the slog of fighting that guy, because I would be doing chip damage against him, and that just would have been a long, tedious fight. So if I do want to upgrade something to plus 15 down the way, maybe I'll go back and get it. But at this point, not that interested. And I did have some souls to spend. I talked a little bit in the last one about my leveling scheme for the character, so I'm not going to rehash that. But my next goal in terms of leveling is to get this character to 25 faith, so I can join up with the Warriors of Sunlight. Just to do a little bit of co-op. It's a great source for souls. It's a great source for, you know, further leveling up, and it's just kind of fun. Go and hang out with other randoms and take on bosses or take on levels. But I really want the lightning spear that you get for joining up with those guys, and I'll speak to that in depth a little bit more when I finally do join up with them. So spending most of my levels henceforth in faith. I've got all the endurance I really need and all the vitality I need. It's still pretty low, but I'm decently comfortable with my PvEing. And I can use my partisan and I can use the shield that I want to use, and I'm okay for now with my cleric's robes, though those do look a little raggedy, my cleric's starting equipment. Though I will say, not as raggedy as the Pyromancer starting set, man. I hate that Pyromancer starting set. That just makes your character look like a fucking hobo. It is just a mess. Tattered and ugh. So I'm actually popping off a couple of souls here because I want to pick up Force. Force is the first miracle, aside from Heal, I guess, that I feel I can really make use of. Just talking, I guess, to this initial set of miracles that you could pick up from Petrus, I like Force a lot. Homeward is really handy, but I don't feel it's a great bang for the buck. You know, you don't have to mess with Homeward Bones, but Homeward Bones are not altogether rare, and they're fairly cheap if you want to snag some from the female undead merchant. I feel the 8,000 souls it costs you to acquire Homeward at this point in the game could be much better spent in other areas, either in leveling up or in upgrading your gear or something like that. So I don't usually mess with Homeward until later when you're just trying to, you know, get every miracle or things like that. I don't feel it's a great value. Force, on the other hand, is probably one of my best chances to survive a griefer attack. I was talking about griefers in the last one a little bit. So when these guys come in with over-leveled gear at low levels, then Force, you can fire it off as a mini Wrath of the Gods, kind of stagger them and then go around for a stagger BS. These guys, you know, with Fatality, apparently I did feel I needed a little bit more Vitality, didn't go into Faith there. But so when these guys come in just going for the one-shot BS, Force is a godsend to just sort of get them off you and then, like I said, potentially go around for that stagger BS. So I will put that to use. Just gave Lautrec a little boot off the ledge. Talk to him first. Make sure you get the Sunlight Medal. That is going to be handy to me when I go join up with the Warriors of Sunlight. But then otherwise, snag his Ring of Protection, Humanity, good times. And it's gratifying to kick him off. I don't need the Dingy set. I don't really want to mess with the whole sequence of storyline where he kills Anastasia and you have to hunt him down in Anor Londo. Not a big deal. I'm not really going to use anything from that exchange. I'm not going to use his armor set, so I'll just go ahead and give him the boot. And usually I don't equip that Ring of Favor and Protection until fairly later either, because I like having both ring swaps or ring slots available to swap stuff in and out there. I like the variety that the rings, you know, give you. Here's my first death. So I got a phone call and thought I was so clever. I was not looking at the screen at all and thought I just knew the terrain well enough to navigate backwards down those steps to the safety of Firelink Shrine, where I could, you know, take my phone call in peace. Didn't work. I apparently do not. And the lesson learned from that is never take a phone call. Ever. Not just when you're playing Dark Souls. Don't ever take a phone call. They're a pain in the ass. So that kind of sucks. We lost our human form. I was hoping to do a little bit of co-op against the Capra demon, which is where I'm heading next. But I guess at least maybe this way I don't have to worry about those griefers I was just talking about. Ooh, attack of opportunity as I was jumping. He popped me in the foot with his firebomb. So I just said I'm heading for the Capra demon. Why? If we're focusing on efficiency and we're focusing on just gathering up gear to get our character PvP ready, why are we messing around with the depths? Why are we messing around with the Capra demon and the Undead Burg? This is kind of the point where, one, my enjoyment of PvP or PvE kicks in. I just kind of like fighting those guys. But two, for practical reasons, for souls. The Capra demon, not so much. but you got to take out him to get the key to the depths. The gaping dragon that you fight down there gives you a good chunk of souls. I think it's 20 or 25,000 souls. And early on in the game, when levels are inexpensive and you can kind of power up your character early on, souls are a precious commodity. So a lot of times I will go into areas that I don't necessarily need to go into, or where it's not, the absolute straightest line from point A to point B, just to collect some souls, so I don't really have to mess with it down the way. I think I got my second death coming up here. This one actually was a lesson, because I was kind of curious about it. I've still got my Dragon Crest shield equipped, and I thought, you know what? The Drake breathes fire. Let me see if I can just tank this. Absolutely not. And I'm not quite sure what happened there, because so the first one broke my guard, and then I think the second one hit me for an attack of opportunity when I was staggered, so it did extra damage, and I don't have a lot of health to begin with. But in this one, I just try and run through. He still hits me with the fire, but it does maybe half my health in terms of in damage. And so I think, this is just a theory, I think if you are running away from the fire, it doesn't hit you as hard as if you are facing into it, trying to take it, tank it, whatever it is. I don't know if that's like a programming thing, if that's like a developer implemented thing where there is some piece of code that says, yeah, if you are trying to run away, if you're trying to get away from that Hellkite Drake, we're not just going to completely dick you over and one-shot you with the fire. But if you're trying to take them on, you get the full brunt of that attack. I'm not sure. If you guys have any insight on that, like if you know that is the case, let me know, because I've been curious about it. It does not hurt you. It absolutely does not hurt you as much when you're running away as it does if you are trying to fight them and just take it, in the face. Also note that I opened up that shortcut. I took the time, deviated from the path to activate the shortcut and just connect the lower Undead Burg with the upper Undead Burg. I was talking a couple episodes back too about doing that, just because there are times when just weird shit goes down and you die inexplicably, and it's nice to have activated the, not inexplicably, I guess you screw up and you die, but at least you've got the shortcut available so that you don't have to run back through the entire level. Remember that I said that, because that is about to come and bite me something fierce when I go down and take on the Capra demon. Sigh. Okay, so I'm popping a humanity here because I would really appreciate some Hollow Thief garb. Getting that one humanity up there, increases your drop rate pretty substantially, and I'm not really planning on using any of the Hollow Thief gear, but the hood is pretty cool, and I like the leather armor as well. So that would be just a nice little bonus drop. I freed Griggs as well, not because I need any magic, but because he's going to go back to Firelink Shrine and be a source of humanity that we can then go farm when we get a Dark Hand. Having all those NPCs I almost said in the Nexus, in the Firelink Shrine, you can go back with your Dark Hand and just suck the humanity out of them, and they will not aggro on you. So they are a nice piece to just get some soft humanity up in your meter down the way. So that was an investment in the future as well. Alas, the Hollow Thieves did not drop me anything. I'm just coming back to check. Nothing. But, oh man, sweet. Got a mail breaker out of it. That has got to be one of the most useless weapons in the game, because it's slower than a dagger and so short. Man, who are you? Maybe I should start using the mailbreaker in PvP just for the giggles of it. Trying to get this dog to come at me. Here he comes. And these dogs, man, I remember on my very first playthrough through the game, and a lot of the early ones that followed closely thereafter, I had so many problems with those dogs. Those dogs are so irritating, because they seem to have a pretty quick initiation of their attack as well. There'll be a lot of times when they'll lunge at you and then just be sitting there seeming to not do anything, and then, ooh, got a surprise coming. Guy scared the crap out of me. But they just sort of initiate this attack really quickly. So as, if you don't have a weapon that you can hide behind a shield and poke with, when you drop your guard to attack them, they can interrupt you a lot of times. Those dogs, man. Alright, now right here, I think you can watch the gears turn in my head too. I go down because there's a shortcut down there that I'm thinking, Yeah, I should probably go activate this because I don't want to have to run back here. But then I thought, you know what? I'm pretty confident taking on the Capra Demon. I've done it a million times. I don't think this is going to be too bad. Oh, it was bad. Check this out. Check out this heaping pile of impotence on my part. Like, this is just awful. Oh, heavens. I did not do a thing. And so now, having not taken my own advice, I have to run all the way back through. This time I did go activate that shortcut. I edited the run back to this point because it's, you know, who wants to see the rehashed material? But oh my god, listen to yourself, Polly. Activate the shortcuts when you say you activate the shortcuts. Lesson learned. There's my third death. 3 deaths, 3 lessons learned. No phone calls. Can't take the fire. Activate your shortcuts. And the Hollow Thief gear still did not drop. But alas, I'm actually not sure what my secondary setup for armor is going to be with this character. I do have the primary one. I'm going to use chain. I'm going to use the night leggings. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of investment in endurance. But I'm not sure what I'm going to use when I just feel like mixing it up. Oh, and there's my blood stain up on the stairs. Goes a little bit better for me this time, taking on the Capra Demon. And I gotta say, when taking this guy on, I have no embarrassment, I have no shame in using the stair strategy, especially to get rid of those dogs. Those dogs will just cheap you to death if you let them just kind of run around. So I always use the stair technique, which is a great technique. I highly recommend checking it out if you've never fought this guy. And then once it's down to just me and old Capra, we'll kind of go toe-to-toe. Have a little bit better time with it. So one thing to point out, I have not rested at a bonfire, and I'm not going to when I dispatch this guy and head down into the depths. That is because I do not want to mess with Upper Blighttown. There is nothing that I want in Upper Blighttown, and that is just a headache that you can avoid altogether if you have the Master Key. You can take the shortcut through New Londo and just end up straight down in the swamp. So that is what we're going to do. Thanks, Wolfring. So when I take out that Gaping Dragon, I will just homeward bone it back to Firelink, and then take the shortcut and just bypass that level altogether. No amount of souls in the world is going to make me want to play through Upper Blighttown. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. So Capra Demon's gone. I think we get about 6,000 souls for the effort. Yep, 6,000 souls for the effort. That's a couple of levels. Highly valuable. And we're headed to the depths. That'll do it for this one. I'm going to cap it. Thanks as always for watching. Hit me back with any kind of feedback or comments or things like that. And as mentioned on a prior video, I'm going to try and get these things posted a little faster. I gotta beat Dark Souls 2, and I think at this pace, I'm not going to do it. So I'll try and get these out a little quicker. Thanks as always. Thumbs up, thumbs down, give me a sub, and I will catch you next time.